Hello my loves, and welcome back to BehatiLife YouTube channel. If we're meeting for the first time, welcome, and for those of you that are old friends and family, welcome back. As you guys can see, I'm currently in my apothecary space. It is currently under transformation because I am opening shortly, actually tomorrow. But today I wanted to talk to you guys about dark feminine energy, because one of the oils that I'll be sharing with you guys embodies just that energy that I'm mentioning and that we're going to be talking about this afternoon. Go ahead, get comfy, get cozy, and let's go ahead and dive right in. So first things first, what is dark divine feminine energy? What is the dark feminine? This is an awesome question, number one, but it's the same energies that have been squashed and tried to be stifled and killed and suppressed since, I want to say, the beginning of time. There are few times in history, I think, that dark feminine energy has been truly respected, but I am a firm believer that if we are able to fully understand dark feminine, the dark feminine that lives within every single one of us, we would live in a very healthy, constructive, and balanced society. Basically, what the dark feminine is, it's the part of ourselves that is able to be receptive and sensitive, that is unafraid of the shadow aspects of itself, that is able to be raw and real and primal, that doesn't get suppressed or squashed by guilt or shame, and there's a lot of that in society. The dark feminine is the intuition, that natural instinct that it is that we have to nurture, to build bonds in our relationships, to have balance within our relationships, to be receptive to pleasure, to be encouraged to embrace sensuality and explore our sensuality and even our sexuality, because those two are very different, to allow ourselves to be in spaces where we can be soft, where we can be vulnerable, where we can explore our deepest, darkest desires, our fears, are things that make us, that we should be protected within. I think one of the reasons why dark feminine energy has been squashed for so long is people fear the unknown. People have been brainwashed to follow traditional rules at the time, and generation after generation of people violating and abusing their power over others in order to become wealthy, to control, to have power, to have influence. It started to become a way of thinking. It started to become a way of overall energy of the mind, like how we think collectively as a society. But in today's time, I believe that the divine dark feminine is awakening. The tables and the tides are turning, and we are going to see more examples of so many people rebirthing themselves, stepping into themselves, pursuing psychology, trying to heal themselves, better themselves as individuals, not only for relationships, to connect with others in a deep, more enriching and intimate way, but also to connect within themselves within that same deep and enriching way. I see people have been working the trend. I see it within the astrology charts, but I also see the trend in society through social media, which is really the pulse point of our society. Social media, it really shows us what collective groupthink is at currently by second, minute, moment, or within the year. It's a very good observer of where collective groupthink is at. Going on Twitter, aka now X, Instagram, TikTok, etc., etc., etc. So watching on these social media platforms, a huge focus on people working on themselves, feeling way more comfortable with separating themselves and creating boundaries between them and others, or them and the outside world, in order to pursue peace, nurture themselves, take care of themselves, embrace sensuality, embrace self-care, embrace taking care of themselves mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. All of these things are being practiced right now. One of the reasons why I feel like society is so anti-dark feminine and wants to crush the dark feminine energy is because people who are in tune with their own dark feminine and who are not their own worst enemy, who are not fighting their demons, who are able to think for themselves, they cannot be controlled. They can be used, they can be abused, they can be like sheep. Honestly, I hate to use that as a metaphor, but truly led and guided like sheep where the abusive power is coming from. This means that society may be very profitable as far as it can go. And by society, I mean the top layers of society profit more. The government is able to control people, or the powers that be are easier to control people if the people feel shame or don't want to be isolated or like outcasts of society. Human beings are very social creatures and we need each other. If you are the outcast, the weirdo, the black sheep, the crazy person who, or the wild woman who refuses to shave her armpits and lets her hair wild and free, you know, it can be a threat to foundation that is formed to seriously control. Not only do we see that within government, society, but you see it with, and not just over women, although there's definitely that, but how men push themselves onto other men who are emotionally balanced, who are emotionally in tune, who are sensitive, who are intuitive. Those men who aren't and who are pawns of society and propped up by society can take advantage of those who are sensitive and who are tapped into that dark feminine energy or their feminine sides, their feminine self. Or those same people who are very in tune and connected with their feminine, they get guilted and shamed and they become the perpetuators of violence, and it just is a repeated cycle. So the reason why I think it's so important that we talk about the dark feminine energy, that we explore this dark feminine within ourselves, that we share our moments of epiphanies within these small groups, is because astrologically speaking right now, we as people, individuals, we are taking over. And if every single one of us is able to heal ourselves, we can make a massive shift in history and change the course of the globe as we know it. It is that serious. It starts with small conversations like we're having today, right now, you and me hanging out. And from this space, very dark feminine energy, we have the crushing out of the old, that which does not serve us, and the rebirth, the renewal, giving birth to this new fresh side of ourselves that has been long suppressed for way too long. So let's go ahead and move into the next form, the next part that I want to talk to you guys about the dark feminine, what we can expect from her and how we can find it and then ultimately heal it within ourselves. One of the ways that you'll know that it is time for you to begin to work on this dark feminine energy, this divinely dark feminine energy, is you're going to feel a really strong need to enforce boundaries around yourself. When you start to enforce these boundaries, this is essentially you seeing yourself separate from any potential aspects of relationships or anything in your environment that could take advantage of you as you are diving into the most vulnerable form of yourself. Another way that this can come through, that it's time for you to start working with the dark feminine, is you have a need, a desire to do shadow work. This means that you are unafraid, or you may be afraid but still called into finding the shadow aspects of the brain, the heart, the mind. This is confronting your fears. This is confronting illusion. This is confronting addiction. This is confronting any aspects of yourself that feel vulnerable, hidden away, and would love to be healed, expressed, and seen fully. This is the psychology, the makeup of the mind. Ultimately, if we're not healing this, it will rule us. It will call the shots on your life, what you think, what you choose subconsciously. So we want to pull it up, draw it up, and handle it consciously. Another way that you'll know that it's time for you to start working on healing the dark feminine energy is there's a need to become the best version of yourself. This could be because there's like an outside trigger. For example, let's say you were a daughter your whole life and now it's your turn to be a mother, and some of the things that you were watching in motherhood that you tolerated when you were just a daughter or a sister or a friend before, now you realize my daughter cannot tolerate these things any further. I love that example because, again, new mom here, so I can't help these days but to paint everything through that lens. Another way that you're gonna know that it's time for you to start working on that dark feminine energy is there is a need to express yourself creatively and fully. You get agitated and even frustrated or even emotional. Those tears come up and they swell, especially when you're angry. Are you one of those people who, when you're angry, you want to cry? That's that dark feminine wanting to express itself. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. You want to express yourself fully, whether creatively, there we go, or emotionally. And this includes even your most powerful and most messy emotions. Nothing is off the table. Nothing is out of your reach or outside of your grasp. You're ready to dive into it, whatever it looks like. Okay. I just want to say too that the dark feminine energy is really big on the coming together of all parts of yourselves, the shadow aspects, the light aspects. It's about embracing all of what makes you you. It's about your authenticity. Again, this raw primal energy that just is activated and moving and flowing and is in her bag. She's in her zone. She is not dimming her light. She is not quieting her voice if she doesn't want to or he doesn't want to. You're speaking out, you're singing out, and you are this full version of yourself. Imagine what society would look like if we all respected each other's boundaries, but also watched each other bloom into these super healed, super open, highly vulnerable, mysterious, magical versions of ourselves. That is something to set a goal for, right? I really, really love that. So what are the ways that we can work on healing that dark, divine, feminine energy? Well, one of my favorite ways is easy and free. Really, you can journal or verbally talk about your emotions, getting your emotions up and out. When you sit with yourself, when you meditate, when you put a hand on your heart, you can ask yourself that deep, dark, divine feminine, especially if you don't feel connected to that energy yet, you can allow it to be what it is right now, which is something that feels separate from you. You don't need to give it a name, but you can say, okay, dark feminine, deep divine dark feminine just says that you exist within me. I conjure you up. I ask for you to reveal yourself because I wish to work to heal you today. And I wish to integrate all parts of myself, of ourselves now moving forward. Are there any traumas that need to be expressed right now? Are there any things that wish to be seen? Are there any emotions that I have been suppressing that I'm afraid to feel? For some of you guys, this is going to be a whole whirlwind of energies that you have been suppressing for far too long. And for many of you that can relate to that, you're gonna be so scared that, oh my God, Jess, what if I express these energies? Am I gonna go crazy? Am I gonna go nuts? Will I ever be the same version of ourselves? Initially, it does feel like insanity. I'm not gonna lie to you. Ask me about that later, but initially it does feel a little insane. What to me is more insane is that all of society collectively has traumas that we all hold, emotions that we all as human beings naturally carry, but we're all expected to hold on to them, swallow them down, and pretend like they don't exist, and put a smile on our face and work these 9-to-5 jobs as if everything is honky-dory, and as if we're not these incredibly messy and perfectly imperfect human beings. That to me is insanity. We might as well feel our feelings. We might as well confront those past wounds. We might as well push past them. The truth is, and I did this years ago when within my own healing, if you count how long it takes for you to have an emotional breakdown, if you want to call it, like allowing yourself to emotionally break down and release, it lasts, what, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, less than a minute for most people. And then you are hyperventilating, and then you come back to yourself, and there's a sense of peace or a sense of crushing, but at least you observed that feeling. You allowed it to come alive. You allowed it to exist. It does exist. You just embraced it. Really, you embraced it. Keep doing that. Keep pulling up those suppressed emotions, or allowing those suppressed emotions to show themselves. Have these sacred windows of time where you give yourself a safe space and time to feel all that you need to feel, address all that you need to address. Yes, it'll feel like you are losing your mind, but you will come back. And I promise you that 15, 30 second, 45 second, less than a 60-second breakdown is worth not having to live your entire life trying to hold it all together and making choices and decisions from a place where you are shrinking yourself, suppressing yourself, silenced, and crushing your desires and postponing your healing ultimately. So wash, rinse, and repeat that until it no longer evokes the same amount of emotion. It can take a week, it can take a couple years. It just depends on the trauma. It depends on how long. And yeah, finally you'll be bored of that same trauma. When you're bored of it, it won't control you anymore. That's beautiful, right? One of the other ways to work with the dark feminine is not so much emotional, but now it's sensual. This is a wonderful time to get in tune with the senses, which I love. If you're ruled by Venus, you probably have already mastered this art of yourself, or if you're a Scorpio, you've probably mastered this art of yourself, or Pisces, connecting with sensuality. So this could 1000% look like oils and butters and massage. It could look like the fabrics that it is that you wear on your skin, making sure that they feel comfortable and are supportive of your flow as a dark feminine energy, and not constraining and confining you. Whatever feels comfortable for you, but for a lot of people, it's jewelries and scents and cloth, like clothing that it is that you wear, that allows you to be your most magnetic, empowered, stunning self. This is a really tricky thing too, because for some people, they're so used to connecting sexuality with sensuality and magnetizing and attracting. And yes, the dark feminine energy does lean into those energies and is the expression of how we attract into our lives, especially partners that we ultimately may be interested in being intimate with, physically intimate with, but don't always connect the two. Being sensual doesn't necessarily mean that you are trying to invoke or attract another person's eye to you in the way that is pulling out sexual desire. Being sensual and even attracting and magnetism, you got to be careful with this. Yes, if you want to entice in, you can do that, but make sure that that's not coming from a subconsciously broken place of needing validation or reassurance, or measuring your worth and connecting yourself to an object of desire. If this is something that you truly desire, then by all means wear more sensual, sexual, skin-bearing things, or whatever makes you feel sexy. And for everyone, it's totally up to you, but just be really careful that you're not one of many people where we look at bearing our skin in ways that is provocative, that you are mistaking that as something that is sensual, when in reality it's just society still programmed into your brain telling you that this is what makes you sexy, this is what makes you worthwhile, and this is the only way to explore this side of yourself. For example, I'll use myself as an example. If I was robot of society, or if I was programmed too much by society and someone was telling me to focus on my sensual sexual side, like how do I connect to my sexuality and my sensuality and express myself through my clothes, if I didn't know myself better, I would be like, oh, lingerie, red lace, black, whatever, you know, black fishnet stockings with high heels. The truth is if I sat with myself and tapped in to what truly makes me feel sensual, to what makes me feel comfortable, to what makes me feel attractive, it would not be the red lace, it would not be a corset, it would not be fishnet stockings. Do I think I would look good in all of those things? Yes, girl, let me tell you, because I worn them before. Sorry, BFF just came in. but really, a deep green, off the shoulder caftan is my thing. And some of you guys are probably like, what? That's not sexy. You haven't seen me wear it. Or you might have. But that's what makes me feel sensual. That's what makes me feel sexy and really in tune with my skin. Rich butters on my skin, you guys know. Hashtag Queen Bee Homestead Co. This video is sponsored by Queen Bee Homestead Co. My body butters don't even get me started. Oils, sensual oils, dressing, adorning my skin. Hoop earrings. You guys know I'll always wear my hoop earrings, even though I have my little one here. And she is very crabby right now. She's been ripping my hoop earrings right out, but that's fine. She is divinely expressing herself and figuring out her hands and how her body moves, and it's so wonderful to see her. And if I am a victim of that practice, then I'm so here for it. But anyway, the moral of the story is find what works for you. Ultimately, at the end of the day, no one can tell you what makes you feel sensual. For some of you guys, it could be jeans, like loose jeans and a nice loose white t-shirt and a chain around your neck. And I can actually vision that. Like, I can picture it in my head, and that is very sensual. Like a good pair of cotton jeans. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next way to heal the dark feminine is what I kind of talked about briefly, what I mentioned earlier, setting boundaries and also observing those connections in your life that are needing to be cords that are cut. If you have something or someone, relationships that are abusive of your dark feminine energy, or abusive to you, then the dark feminine energy will find herself suppressed and quieted or held back in many ways, because it's not safe for him or her to be free. Also, this is not just romantic relationships. It could be a relationship with work. Saying no with no guilt. There are a lot of people that expect a lot, especially if you're someone who is successful, or even if you're not successful. You might be in a work environment that they're just like, this is the only way I can see you. This is the only way that we want you to perform. This is the only thing that you are good at. And they manipulate you, or they blatantly tell you that this is what they want from you. You need to know how to honor your needs without explaining yourself. I was just talking about this with our nanny, and we were cackling, kikiing over we as women. She's in her 20s. I love her. She is in her 20s, but oh my God, the wisdom that she carries is so beautiful. Just the two of us sitting there fawning over the little one, and talking about how we as women are getting stronger with the word no. No is a full sentence all by itself. And that is something that I am very good at. But after I gave birth, now this is another story time. After I gave birth, I found myself in a very emotionally vulnerable space. And the areas of my life that I actually mastered, saying no and setting boundaries, were things that I found myself being tested on. And even my family, my mom was like, Jess, I wouldn't even know to see that you would need help in this area, because you've never needed help in this area. I'm surprised to hear you struggling with this now. Motherhood does change you in ways that I did not expect ever. I needed to relearn and remind myself of how to say no to certain places that I was being challenged. My boundaries were definitely being challenged, and it's tough, especially when you are vulnerable, when you are open, when you have gone through something so life-changing and so powerful, and there's so many people around you that you love, it really was challenging me. But it's important that I expressed myself in the way that I did and set those boundaries, reinforce those boundaries. The reason why I'm sharing this with you guys today is, number one, so you don't feel alone, but number two, so to remind you that oftentimes, even if you are someone who is good at setting boundaries, you can find yourself throughout your life needing to have that little re-up in the gas tank of the car that allows you to enforce those boundaries or say no or speak up for yourself. That is normal. If there are relationships or energetic connections that continue to drain you or disrespect you, those people gotta go. Another way to work with this energy is by being divinely inspired by the archetypes, the dark feminine archetypes that have came before us. That is Hecate, that is Kalima, that is Persephone, I never say her name correctly, Lilith energy. Do your research on these goddess energies, but please, by all means, do not invoke all of them at the altar at one time. Not a good idea. Or just read their stories. Medusa, ooh, I love the energy of Medusa. One of my ex-best friends, long story, she always gravitated towards the energy of Medusa, which is so funny because now looking back at it, I see the issues that she's had within her past when it comes to boundaries, her own dark feminine, her giving over her power to masculine energy consistently. Why Medusa's energy was so strong, such a strong archetype that showed up in her life and was symbolic in her life. And I'm wondering, you know, if she still connects to that energy to this day. That was another relationship that had to go. Crazy, right? Like the things that you would never think that would happen, they do end up happening. Is so interesting. Another way to work with the dark feminine energy, of course, is with magic and intention. Now, before you come for me, this is not for everyone. For those of you guys whose panties are gonna get in a bunch, I'm a witch, okay? If you don't know, now you know. I've been, not only is that my practice since forever, but I've been sharing my magic here on the internet for over 10 plus years now. And it's been a journey, okay? Hi! You are so precious. I love when you smile. I just love when you smile. Good morning. All right, I gotta go. But yes, working your rituals is wonderful for dark feminine energy. Yes, 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 yes. Also, dark feminine is not taboo. So if you have a little one, a little daughter, a little son that you want to teach the dark feminine, this is not off, this should not be off limits. I think so many people try to, when they think of mystery, the word mystery or the subconscious, they think they connect it to the word bad, like as if it's a bad thing. And it's really not. So allow your children, your little ones, to find themselves and practice their own dark feminine energy. This is about when they talk to you, that you listen to them. Bring crystals to them and let them choose the crystals that they want. Which one do they feel the most drawn to? And then do the research on what powers that it may activate and pull up from them. So that's one way. Another way, last thing I'll say before I go, to work with the dark feminine energy is through ritual burnings. Write down everything that is that you wish to release under the full moon. Get really into the ritual aspect of things, especially when it comes to transformative energies, rebirth, reawakening, because that's what the dark feminine energy is all about. I'm gonna go nurse my little one here, my own little dark feminine. So I'm gonna talk to you guys later. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Make sure that you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, and make sure you keep your eyes out for my dark feminine intention oil, which I have created at my own altar, and my fertility candle, which has been created in a candle form when it was an intention oil form, and all the babies that were created with that intention oil, oh my gosh, the blessings are abundant. So if you need, it will be provided. The links for the apothecary are all down below. Until then, please excuse the mess of the apothecary, especially right behind me. I've got a big batch of shea butter. I don't know if you guys can see it. And then a bunch of my journals and records right here on my desk, pardon my armpits. And then we've got some bath soaks, some ritual soaks, bath soaks, candle magic jars, over me. What else can you guys see? All the candles. Honestly, you guys know I'm not here for perfection. I'm here for precision. Well, is that the same thing? No. I'm here to be precise, not perfect. They're very different things. When it comes to my astrology predictions, my intuition, my magic, and my message, okay? We are not giving fake performances of perfection here on the internet. We're always going to be real, whether you like it or not. So, Dark Feminines, we will come together in the near future, but make sure that you're subscribed to this YouTube channel, turn on your notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.